Terrence James, and you're watching another episode of Neutral Reviews, where we do real reviews for real decisions. And today we're looking at the 2021 Kia Stinger GT Limited. And I borrowed this vehicle from London Kia, who has a fantastic location, great building, wonderful service department, and some of the most compelling vehicles on the road today, including this one. Now, there's not a lot of difference between the 2021 and the newly refreshed 2022, and that's because Kia, being a conservative company, knew not to fix what wasn't broken. Because styling and technology and performance have never been the Stinger's issue. It's been how we view them as a brand that needed the facelift. And we're told as kids not to judge a car by its badge, because every so often someone comes along and breaks the mold. And objectively, this is a great car for the money and even looks good too, but it hasn't sold the way Kia wanted it to. And that's because when we view this car, we view it by the badge and these gems that are associated with it. And we miss what's sitting right in front of us. So what we want to do today is we want to set out to see, is this the cheaply made, boring Kia that we see it as because of the badge it's wearing? Or is it the blossom beauty from every date night movie that we don't want to miss out on because we judged wrong? So let's take a look. And the Kia Stinger's performance numbers are impressive. This car has a 3.3-liter twin-turbocharged V6 engine mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission that runs through an all-wheel drive system that can send up to 80% of its power to the rear and is rear-biased. It has 365 horsepower, 376 pound-feet of torque, which can take this vehicle from 0 to 60 in around 4.5 seconds or a little faster. It can do the quarter mile in 12.9 seconds with a total top speed that's limited of around 167 miles per hour. The vehicle, as well, as we said, handles impressively, and that is because most of this engine is actually behind the front axle, and the transmission and all-wheel drive system are mounted low as well. So this car handles very, very well and has almost a perfect 50-50 weight distribution. It also has a limited slip differential and a staggered wheel and tire design with the wider on the rear to help give more grip. This car's design for its powertrain is very similar to the Germans, and this makes sense because Albert Biermann, who used to head up the BMW's M division, came over to Kia in 2015 to help design and head up this project here for the Stinger. Because originally as well, they were thinking that this car's competition was going to be directly against the Audi A5 Sportback or the BMW 4 Series Grand Coupe. Now, as time has gone along, and because this car looks so well, and because of how it performs, it is also competition to things like a Civic Type R or a Subaru STI. Or, when we also look at another group of folks, this is also competition to Japanese cars like the Acura TLX. So it has a wide range of competition, including here in North America with things like the Dodge Charger. But really, its main focus was always the Germans. And you can tell that with not only the performance, but the styling inside and out as well. So let's take a look at styling. One of the things that's unanimous about this vehicle is about how people feel about how it looks. And it was on the cover of all the car magazines when it came out for a reason, because it appeals to exec and boy racer alike. Whether it is the long, sleek, elegant lines of the profile, or whether it's the 19-inch wheels and the Brembo brakes, the quad exhausts, the vents, and the aggressive front treatment, this vehicle comes together in a wonderful blend that appeals to many people. So whether your favorite movie is Fast and the Furious or The Wolf of Wall Street, this car appeals to you. And not only does it rival the Germans in its styling on the outside and the performance, it also does on the tech and the materials and everything on the inside. So let's take a look. So whether you're tearing it up on the track or just going out for a night in a town, this is a very fitting place to be. Whether it is the smooth, elegant lines or the simple shapes or the aggressive flat bottom steering wheel or the nice aluminum treatments in here, it's fitting both to the boy racer mindset and exec alike. And as we said that this car rivals the Germans on the powertrain that's beneath it, it does in interior quality and design as well, except in a few places it does fall back a bit. Like for instance on the steering wheel cap here, underneath where the glove compartment is, on the bottom parts of the door, it does look a little bit stereotypical Kia-ish, if you will. But again, to be fair, this is a cheaper car and not as expensive as those other ones, but we put the money where it matters, because the touches and materials where it is in front of you, they are as nice as any car on the market today. And when we look at things like the dash, I really like that they've kept analog gauges here and that they're raised. They're very nice looking, and they do have a digital screen in the middle that does give you more information, and it has a heads-up display, and the heads-up display is wonderful. It is perfectly lined, and it works well, and it has just the information that you need. And again, when we talk about alignment, these seats, not only are they bolstered, and when you turn on sport mode, they actually will cinch up a little bit more, and they're heated and cooled, which is nice as well, and they feel good, but it is a nice low driving position. This really does feel like a sporty car when you're in here. I do have the seats set quite low. Now that does minimize foot room in the back, to keep that in mind, but if you are out and you're on a back road or something and you want that sporty feel, you can definitely do that. There's a ton of safety features we'll talk about more when we get on our drive, but just some other things that you have here. As we said, many different drive modes, including custom and of course your normal sport and comfort and things like that, and there's an eco mode as well. You also have things like a 360 camera. If we put this in reverse, it's great, and it gives you many different options that you can cycle through as well, and it has good resolution. You can stop the auto start stop if you like, and one of the things that I like as well too is it does have your charging port for your wireless charging, and it is also a wired version of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if you want to use that. And one of the things that I like as well is it's a blend in here between the new and the old for technology. And what I mean by that is I think that this still will age well because of the overall design, but I'm glad that they've kept and have in this car the physical buttons, especially for your heating and ventilation, because you know it's something that you don't want to fight with or be distracted with when you're doing that as you're driving. So one of the things that this car does well as well is practicality. So let's take a look at the back seats in the trunk before we take it for a ride. Now, getting into the back of the Kia Stinger is not that difficult, but because it does lean back a little bit, it is a little awkward, but again, depending on the type of people you're having in the car, they may like that. The seating back here is quite comfortable. It really is. I like the angle of the seats. I like how they're a little bit bolstered themselves. They're perforated. They feel really good. Now I'm only 5'7", so I think if you're a little bit taller, that would be an issue, especially if you're 6 foot. You're going to probably hit your head or not be super comfortable back here. So again, keeping that in mind, depending on how often and who you want to have in the back seat of the car. Again, we mentioned it just a second ago, but because these front seats are slung very, very low to give you that good sporty driving position, it also does take and negate a lot of the wiggle room for your toes. Now, I do have the seat lifted quite high, so I can fit my toes back there, and when you can do that, these are also carved out back here, so you have room for your knees. But if the person driving did have the seat low, there's not a lot of toe room back here. There is ports for you to plug things in, as well as a larger 12 volt and USB, and there is some temperature direction back here, and as well as some temperature control, and there are pockets for things as well for you to put in. Again, sitting back here is comfortable, it's very quiet, and I do like the sound system. It sounds good back here as well. So let's take a look at the trunk. Now, one of the other great features of this car, because of its sportback design, is the extra level of practicality that it offers you. The Stinger has a power lift gate, which is nice. And as you can see, there is tons of space back here, and it's a nice wide and large opening to get those things in and out. And the seats in the rear are 60-40 split as well. So you have lots of length to put things in as well. So let's take this for a ride. So one of the things that we like to do on our reviews is give our first impressions. When I picked up this vehicle this morning, my first impression was that it felt a lot bigger than I was expecting. It's a lot bigger of a car, but with that being so, it also handled a lot better than I was expecting when I first drove it, because it does seem a lot bigger. But with that being said, the other thing that I first was impressed with as well was that I was able to put the seat as low as I could. I own a Subaru BRZ, so that car is a sports car, and you're able to sit very low in that car, and I feel very much like that here, which is odd for a sports sedan, and it's nice to see. I really like that. Things to talk about while we're in here. Acceleration, we already gave the numbers of around 4.5 seconds or a little bit faster, 0 to 60, but that actual pickup is very good. It's smooth. The transitions between gears are smooth. There's a little bit of a jolt to let you know something's happening, which is kind of nice for a sporty aspect, but it's not so much that it takes away from the luxury aspect of this car. It really is a nice blend. It's not a dual clutch, but it does work really well. The 8 gears seem to work well. The overall traction seems good too, because of the all-wheel drive. You can feel the car set back when you're launching with a lot of that power going there, but you can still feel grip in the front. What else to say? Just overall, the power delivery is pretty smooth. There is some turbo lag, but you know, that's to be expected, and it's not anything that's bad. And turbo lag sometimes can be fun, because that's when you feel the power kick in. Some of these new turbos where it's very, very smooth and linear like a naturally aspirated engine, that's unique, and I like that as well, but I kind of like this more old school turbo type feel. What about the noise in here? Well, I wish the engine sounded better, and I wish that we could hear more of it, but it's not a bad sounding engine, and it's not too quiet in here either when it comes to the engine noise. Again, just that nice blend of sportiness and luxury. Overall noise, it's very quiet. It does feel like a luxury car in here. You don't hear a lot of road noise. There's not a lot of wind noise. And it's just a nice, comfortable, quiet place to be. As far as suspension goes, again, it's that nice, happy medium. It's not too firm, and it's not too soft. I really like that a lot. I've mentioned in reviews before, I also own a GTI Volkswagen Mark 7, and it's very similar. It gives you that sporty feel when you need it, but it's also supple enough when you are just going somewhere on a day-to-day drive and you don't want anything too firm. Braking, we did mention that this has got 4-piston Brembo brakes up front and 2-piston in the rear, and a decent size discs all the way around, and it stops really well. For a 4,100 pound car, it stops well, and it does feel like a sports car in that sense of when it stops, but you can feel the weight compared to a sports car. What else to talk about in here? Just the seats. I really, really, really like these seats. They're extremely comfortable, yet when you put it in sport mode, it does cinch up, as we were saying, and make you feel a lot more secure in here. And also what you can do as well, as I think we were mentioning possibly, and I can't remember, but it's a good time to mention it now, is if you do want a little bit more sportiness out of this car, you can shut the traction completely off, and you can because of the limited slip differential and having it in sports mode with the ECU off and the traction off, it can, they actually marketed it as a drift mode in the States. Again, this is a car that's not necessarily meant to be drifting, but it is nice that they do give you that option in this car, because again, not a lot of these German cars, as expensive and well performing as they are, not always do they have that same level of customization for you to have that intense sporty drive that you may be wanting to have. Mentioning as well too, the seats actually work in this car. They're memory, there's all kinds of different positions in them, and the seats are cooled and heated, and sometimes when you get cooled seats, they don't actually cool down that much, or sometimes when they're heated, they take really long to heat up. This car does not. It's got heated steering wheel, same thing, heats up really well. I really like how well the temperature works. The sound system really works well in here. It's a nice sounding car. You can tell some thought went into it. It's just a nice place to be. Now, when we were saying that we were going to talk about safety technology, I also like this car, now that I'm driving a few different types of cars, it doesn't seem as aggressive or bossy. I don't know how else to say it. Sometimes there's a lot of bells and dings and whistles and lights, and sometimes it can get distracting and get very irritating. But this car, the noises and the chimes only chime in, pardon my pun, at the right time, and it's a nice sound. And two, even like on the heads-up display here, if I get too close to either line, I'll see it light up, and you'll also hear a noise. It doesn't seem to pull you back in too aggressively, which is nice. Everything's just gentle, and I really like that. I like that gentle feel very much. What else to say with some of the safety technology? Of course, you have like your blind spot monitoring and things like that, and again, it's not overly aggressive in that sense that it's just nice easy chimes, and you can also see in your heads-up display with that too. And this being a larger car, those types of features are nice to have, yet there is, because of the driving position and the windows and how the car is laid out, there is quite a bit of room in here, a lot of greenhouse space, a lot of light, and I don't feel at all that I'm having a difficulty seeing when I'm maneuvering at all. Yeah, with that being said, because you've lowered the seats, you do sit well below the belt line, and with these thick pillars, you do also feel very safe in here. And you know, the car has a good track record for safety. I believe it's 5-star in almost all categories, if not. And like I said, this car really, which brings us to our final impressions, is I really think that this car is a true competitor to the BMW and the Audi and the Mercedes. With that being said, of course, those cars have the brand recognition that comes with them and the prestige, and they are a little bit better. You're going to get a little bit faster and a little bit better materials and things like that. But this car is so close that you really wouldn't want to judge wrong and stay away from it because of the Kia badge. And I'm glad that Kia has decided to reinvent themselves, because they really do have some of the nicest, most attractive, compelling, exciting, well-built vehicles for any amount of money, but they also happen to be a really good price. So whether you are the boy racer or whether you are the exec, I don't think that you can go wrong with this car. And I think it would be a shame to stay away from it because of the badge. And I think that badge is changing and changing for the better, and it's going to be something that people are going to want to be seen in very soon. Thanks for watching.